I'm really interested in hearing more about how people are focusing on cities as the future. With most of the population moving into cities, how cities work and interact with each other, that's urban connectivity and density, seems to be a real big topic this year. No better place than San Francisco, obviously, and I'm excited to see that.
Every building taking care of its own water, every building doing these things, it really doesn't make sense at that sort of end of the scale. What makes sense is for each one of those buildings to be part of a appropriately scaled district solution, and it's going to be different for your waste, for your water, for your power, for your transportation, and each one of those has a different scale, but there is an appropriate scale for each that will allow the building, instead of being just a collection of green buildings, to be a green city.
The Green Cities movement now is that it's an incredibly rich and exciting place where innovation's happening across all sectors, from public sector to private to nonprofit to academia. There's so much attention on the urbanization of the world. 180,000 people move to cities every day. There's over $300 trillion of infrastructure expenses that we need to figure out in the next 30 years. So it's the era of cities.
Civil engineering and infrastructure is going to become sexy, and it's actually going to be where some of the coolest work is done. And I don't think the civil engineering profession knows it yet. I don't think they see it coming. But when you look at the scale of the work that's being proposed, they're going to get more and more into being the center of the discussion instead of being the last thing that gets connected to a building. I think it may make more sense to use carbon as the meaningful metric for cities to gauge their success, because they actually have the ability to affect change at a scale where carbon starts to be meaningful. Measuring the carbon impacts of a building aren't, to me, that meaningful, but when a city starts to get below Kyoto protocols like Portland has, I think that's really meaningful, and they're doing it across all the sectors: transportation, industry, buildings, etc. But I think we're also going to find the goals from cities should become more and more place-based. The goals that Phoenix sets out as it moves towards becoming a green city are and probably should look different than the goals that Portland sets out, or New York, or Boston. I think because the cultures are different, the constraints are different, the pressures on them both societally and economically and ecologically are all different.
The Green Cities movement is actually more diverse than just net zero buildings and LEED ND and LEED, for that matter, green buildings. There is a whole other group of innovators who are working on equity and social inclusion, who are working on new models of developing buildings in which there's that the benefits accrue to the community, that are looking at planning and other sort of industries that don't tend to get represented here at Green Building, and they're all part of the same journey on the green cities.